have some news. I am moving to the UK. Yeah. I know, I'm freaking out too. I'm freaking out. It's cool, it's cool, it's fine. Don't mind my birds. I hope they don't distract you. So I'm gonna break this down into 4 parts, just because I feel like some people only want certain information. So the first part of this video is going to be the requirements for the Tier 5 visa and how much money you're gonna need. The second part of this video is gonna be the application details. So what kind of questions they ask, what you should prepare before your application, and stuff like that. So the third part of this video, and the part that I was most worried about, is the actual visa appointment details. So where it was, what kind of room it was, how it went, how long it took, all that good stuff. And the fourth and kind of final boring part is going to be how long the application took, how I received my results, and what the results were. Obviously, if I'm going, they were correct. Spoiler alert. So the requirements for this visa are super simple. You basically just have to be from any of these countries right here. Any of those. You have to have 1,890 pounds in savings. And as of right now, 1,890 pounds is $3,265.97 Canadian. So let's round that up and say you need about $3,500 Canadian in your savings. When it comes to fees for this visa, you will also need to pay the application fee, which I believe was like 250 pounds, I think. So in total, about how much I would say that you would need in your bank account for this visa is about $5,000. Hey guys, so it's Editing Mel here. I just realized that I forgot to mention the immigration health surcharge in the video. Basically what it is it's a fee that you pay just to make sure that you have healthcare while you are in the UK. They calculate it based on what country you're coming from and based on your healthcare needs. You just fill in like a little quiz before they tell you what your estimated charge is. Mine was 300 pounds for the 2 years. So when I say how much money I think that you should have before you start applying for this visa, I have included the immigration health surcharge in there, and that's why I skipped so much money and it became $5,000 out of nowhere. So I just wanted to let you guys know that in case you were confused. Okay, bye. Now I know that seems like a lot, but realistically, moving to another country on $5,000 is not very much. They basically just want to make sure that you have enough money to take care of yourself once you enter into the country. So application details. I have my application right here. I'm not going to give you guys every single answer to every single question because for whatever reason I feel like I shouldn't be doing that, but I'm going to give you just the gist of it and a couple tips and tricks for applying that I wish I knew before I started the application. Basically what you do is you sign on to the UK immigration website and you create an account where you can save your application if for whatever reason you need to come back. So you don't need to absolutely set aside like a half an hour of your time, but it doesn't take that long and I would rather just do it all in one. So that's what I did. They ask you for your passport number, so have your passport on hand. They ask you for your parents' information, your parents' nationality, and stuff like that. Luckily for me, I'm really boring. I'm from Canada. I've always lived in Canada. My parents are both Canadian. They've only ever lived in Canada, so that was pretty simple for me. So they ask you if you have an address that you know that you're going to be staying at in the UK. So if you're going to visit like a friend or stay with your partner or family or a hostel, whatever it may be, I would put down the address that you're going to be staying at, obviously, but I know that there's a lot of circumstances where you don't exactly know what you're going to do at the time of applying for the visa, and that's fine too. You don't absolutely need to know. They do give you like a little box at the bottom where you can write your details if you're not 100% sure. So basically what I wrote was, I don't currently have an address, and then I wrote in the box that the apartment that I'm planning on renting requires a visa as proof that you're allowed to be in the country, and I gave them the proposed address that I would be staying at if I was successful. my biggest tip is that it asks you very extensive information on your travel history. So if you're somebody that travels a lot, luckily for me, I don't travel out of the country a whole lot, but if you're somebody that does, I would, before you apply for your visa, go through from the most recent to the least recent in like the past 10 years and write everything down, because these people are gonna have your passport and I feel like they're the freaking FBI or something, and they're gonna be able to figure it out where you were and when you were there. So if you forget something, I would highly caution like pulling up old passports and stuff like that. So it asks you a certain list of countries. So the list is, how many times have you visited the following places in the past 10 years? Australia, Canada, New Zealand, USA, or Schengen area? I have no idea. I don't even know what that is. So I just put in the amount of times that I visited the States because I'm Canadian, so you just go visit your neighbors. It's something that you do. So that was a couple of times. And then I put both times that I've gone to Mexico for just like a vacation. And that was pretty much it for my travel history. Pretty simple, but I can definitely imagine that it would be really complicated for somebody that travels a lot. Then the application asks you things like if you've ever been refused a UK visa, why, have you ever been involved in any terrorism, war crimes, genocide, criminal activity, etc., etc. So I really hope that you've never been a part of that. They do ask you what your employment plans are, and it was very terrifying to me because I'm applying for a visa which does allow you to work, but I didn't have any jobs planned. I guess if you did have a job planned, you could put it there, but I just put, it asks you like for the amount of money that you're going to be making, so I just put 0, and I said no employment currently, but going to seek employment when I'm in the UK. So that scared me because I was like, am I supposed to have a job already? Oh my god, did I pick the wrong visa? What am I doing? So after you finish your application, you basically tell them what kind of supporting documents you're going to be bringing. For the youth mobility visa, it's super simple. All you need is your passport and a bank statement showing that you have over that amount of money in your bank account. So part 3 of this video is the appointment details. Now, there are a couple disclaimers / little tidbits of information that I want to give before I go into this part and explain how everything went for me. So once you're finished the application, they'll redirect you to pay for your application and the immigration health surcharge. So say goodbye to all your money that you saved up all this time and kiss it goodbye, because now the UK government has it. After you pay for your application and your healthcare, you will have to make an in-person appointment at a visa application center. Note, there's actually no UK consulate or embassy in Canada. Why? I totally thought there was. For 23 years of my life, I 100% thought that there was gonna be some sort of like consulate or whatever. Like, why not? We're BFFs. Like, we're friends, fam. We share a queen. Like, why don't we have a freaking embassy in Canada? So when you're applying to go to this visa application center, the people have absolutely no like say over your application. It's basically just a middleman because your application actually gets sent to New York, was the closest one for me. So they get sent to the consulate or the embassy or the decision-making people in New York. So when you go to your visa appointment, I thought it was going to be a little bit more like an interview, like they would read over my application, like have a couple questions or something like that. But they actually don't really know anything about the visas. Like obviously they know a little bit, but their job is pretty much just to package it all up properly and send it to New York. They don't really have anything to do with your visa other than that. So if you have any questions or concerns about your visa, they're not going to be able to help you. They're actually not allowed to answer any questions because they don't have a say on the outcome of your application. They're not allowed to like sway you one way or another because that could like affect your application, so they're really not supposed to tell you anything. I tried asking a girl a question, she's like, we can't answer that, we have no decision making, and I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Huge disclaimer before we start, Canada's a pretty big country and there's not a whole lot of visa application centers in the country. I can't find them right now, but I'll find them when I do post. These are the locations for the Canadian visa application centers. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot of them compared to how big this country is. So I would highly recommend checking to make sure that you are able to get to one of these locations if you have to drive and do like an all-nighter, or if it's like a weekend trip somewhere. They're in like the larger cities, obviously, it makes sense. But since there are a lot of people in Canada who are more rural, I just wanted to kind of make a disclaimer if you didn't know that there is not an application center close to you. You're gonna have to go to one of these bigger cities to apply for them. And the annoying thing was, the only one that was free was Toronto. Like, I had to pay an extra, I think it was $80 to use the application center in Ottawa. Like, what the why? Anyway, so once you book your visa appointment, you pretty much print out your application and you print out your document checklist. So what the document checklist is basically, I think it's like 3 or 4 pages, just like with like little checklists on them that you like check off once you get to the appointment and stuff like that, and that the people will sign, etc., etc. So I get to the application appointment and I knock on the door, and this big scary security guy opens the door and he looks so mad, and I'm just like, hi, I have an appointment. And he's like, and so I pull out my confirmation. They give you like a confirmation number. They don't actually have your name or anything like that. So you need to absolutely bring that confirmation number. It's on your document checklist, so just bring it, bring everything with you, and they don't mind like helping you look through it if you mess up. So I showed him my confirmation, and he looked in my bag, and he did the little like stick metal detector thing on me, and the room was so small. So small. It was this tiny little office. He sat me down at the computer, and you put in your name, address, email, phone number, and it prints out a UPS label for you, and this is the label that they're going to use to send you back your application after the people in New York review it. So this time she took me into another room, and she grabbed my passport, and she looked at my passport, and she looked at me. She looked at my passport, and she said, can you confirm your name and date of birth? So I did. And then they kind of pull up your application on the, I guess, on the computer, and they stamp a bunch of stuff, and they rip a bunch of papers, and they stamp a bunch of stuff, and they put stuff in order. And then she asked me to sign a couple things, and she said, okay, now you go and wait in the waiting room to do your biometrics. And I was like, okay. So I went and I waited in the waiting room, and about another 15-20 minutes after that, they called me back in, where I gave them my fingerprints, and they took a photo of me. It's basically just like a passport photo, because your visa is basically just like a sticker in another, like a blank page of your passport, just saying when you're allowed to be there, when you have to leave, stuff like that. So that little photo that you take that day is the photo that goes on your visa, but don't worry if it's bad, because it's like really small and it's not like an actual passport photo, so it's like just on a piece of paper, so you can't even see it. It's fine. So yeah, I gave them my fingerprints, and the guy asked me a couple questions. It was pretty chill, like nobody really talked to you. They're very straightforward. They weren't mean. I was afraid they were gonna be mean. They weren't. They were fairly nice. Just quiet. And he packed all my stuff up in a little UPS folder, and he put the label on it, and he said I would get an email with a confirmation saying that they received it. I would get an email with an answer on my application status, so whether it was accepted or rejected, and I would get an email with tracking information when they send my passport back to me, which isn't actually what happened. So part 4 of this entire saga is how long my application took to come back, and what the results were, and what is in the accepted folder. So I received an email the day after my appointment saying that they had received my application at the consulate in New York, which is what I expected, and ever since that day I was refreshing my email every 5 seconds. Now, I ended up paying for the priority service just because I was afraid that if I didn't pay for it, somebody else would take the apartment that we were applying for. So if you're more organized than I am and have better planning than I do, then you can probably just pay for the regular processing, which is 10 to 15 days. But I was really worried that we weren't going to get this apartment. So I paid for the priority service, which is 5 days. So I had my application appointment on a Tuesday, and the next Tuesday I received an email saying that my passport was being shipped back to me, but I never got an email with a decision on it. So I was so scared that I had ruined the application somehow and that this meant that I was being rejected. So I was really worried about that. I received my passport the next day in the mail, and lo and behold, it was accepted. So pretty much what they do is they send your passport back to you along with your application. And inside my passport there was a little letter that basically just said, your application has been successful. It tells you how to collect your biometric residence permit once you're in the UK, and it gives you a couple of like directions, like bring this letter with you when you cross the border, bring this letter with you when you collect your BRP, and stuff like that. So I really hope that somehow this long-winded video answered some of your questions. These are some of the things that I was really worried about, so I thought I would make a video helping the internet, because what else would I do? And yeah, if you have any questions, I'll leave all of my links down below for my social media. If you have any questions, feel free to comment or send me a DM or whatever. I'm super open and love talking about this kind of thing. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something. If you thought this video was relatively entertaining whatsoever, please go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.